Welcome to Legally Uncensored. I'm your host, Demetria Graves, and on this podcast, we are untangling hearts and unveiling truths, uncensored conversations on divorce, family law, relationships, and beyond. This season, we will navigate relationships with strength, strategy, and resilience, not only as it relates to divorce, but the many stages of relationships to better prepare you for a great future. In this episode, we have a very special guest, Yoki Brown, who shares his journey of marrying young, navigating divorce, and building meaningful relationships later in life. We love to hear from the men, so I am really, really excited about this episode. Today, we have Yoki Brown, who we thought it would be good to talk to on the reflections of the lessons learned from his first marriage. And he's going to offer some insight into the world of dating in a big city like New York and his current perspectives on love and marriage today. Yoki Brown is a hospitality professional and former model, and he has a very unique approach to relationships, including his close friendships with his ex-wife, which I want to hear about because in my profession, that is a lot of times unheard of. So, Yoki Brown married very young. He is now in his late 40s, single, ladies, and dating in New York. So we get to hear his views on marriage and how those views may have evolved over time. So Yoki, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Demetria.
No problem. So it's my understanding you got married really young. How old were you? And tell me about that experience.
So for me, I was 28 when I got married. It was a short-lived marriage of a relationship that didn't really go on for a long time, but legally we were married for about 3 years.
And why do you feel you were, in hindsight, do you feel you were ready to get married at 28?
Oh, hell no. I think at the time I was really still finding myself, as well as trying to find who a partner should be for me, or the right kind of partner should be for me. So at the time I was very much in flux in terms of my lifestyle, and just my own personal growth and development.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you knew this, but couples who marry between the ages of 20 and 25, they face a higher divorce rate at about 60%. So at that time, I'm curious to know, what did you think, or did you have a view or idea of long-term commitment and what that looked like?
I would say I had an idea of what long-term commitment was. And I guess in my mind, it kind of mirrored that of my grandparents, immigrant Jamaican, where their life was built on servitude, that you kind of stick it through no matter what. But as we know, we're of a different generation. So the patience isn't really there as much. The understanding and the grace isn't really there for as much. The servitude is definitely not there as much. So it didn't align in terms of what I thought marriage would be versus what actually reality was.
And what was the reality for you once you got in that commitment?
Reality is we did not have patience. Reality is that we didn't both know what we really wanted. I would say for me personally, I married out of emotions and out of feelings, which is very fairy tale, which is very sentimental and dreamy, but it wasn't pragmatic. We didn't understand each other's values, or we didn't understand each other's finances or lifestyle. There was a lot of things that would have made for a more pragmatic approach that we didn't go through. it was all about a feeling and how, oh man, I'm really lusting this person. Like the sex is amazing, the conversation is amazing, but there was no actual groundwork that was laid together to make it a more uh, fulfilling and more of a realistic relationship.
At the time, did your parents have any objections, or your grandparents for that matter? Did her family have any objection, or did everyone support you on this journey?
Yes and no.
Mhm.
So again, marrying out of emotions, we really didn't give our parents an opportunity to digest it. There wasn't enough time in which the families were able to uh, come together, meet each other, be around each other to actually see like, hey, is this a real fit? It was more about, hey, I'm really digging this person and I really love this person, and which I truly did. But it was based off of something that, in many sense, could be fleeting and
Mhm.
is not as concrete as something that's built over a series of time. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. So how did that reality look for you? Did you all live with family? How were your friendships impacted during this time? Or were your friends married? Let me ask you that. Did you have any friends that were married during that time?
So I think that was also another thing that kind of played with it. A lot of some of my core friends were starting to get married. So I think externally, I felt a little bit of a pressure
Hmm.
to kind of conform to that, to hop on that trend, and couple that with the emotional side. Like to be honest, that was like the first time I've ever really, really, really been in love and had a serious relationship. So I'm like, hey, might as well hop on the good foot and make it happen, and not really take the time to say, all right, have we hit certain milestones? Have we been together for a certain amount of time? Have we lived together? Like does she know my messy living habits, and can I deal with her habits as well? And I think those are some of the things that, in retrospect, I would have put those to the test first, as opposed to just jumping head foot or head first into a relationship.
So how did the dynamics of the relationship change once you were married? If it changed at all?
It became less about feelings and less about like this whimsical moment of like, wow, days are just feeling like they're endless, to like, hey, man, like, what's our journey? Like, where are we heading? What's our 2 year plan? What's our 5 year plan? What's our 10 year plan? And are you religious? Like all these things that would have probably came up had we had more time together. It was like now you're being really hit by that bus right away, where it's like, wow, this person doesn't even pray. Um, and and it's just a lot of stuff that you don't discover until you actually are in the midst. It's kind of like on the job training.
Hmm.
You don't really know what you're getting into until you're actually on the job and you're actually doing that those series of tasks where you're like, oh wow, this is the walks of service. This is how we should operate here. This is how we should operate there. So
Did you do any
it was
premarital
definitely an
counseling
experience.
together?
No, 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 no,
Did you get married in a church?
no, no. We got married at the Court of Justice.
Okay. So, how did you start to tackle your personal growth or understanding that maybe you weren't on the same page or your career aspirations? When did you start to see those changes appearing in the relationship?
I, I think at a certain point, I just realized that, uh, well, one, I was still figuring out my own personal growth. I was still figuring out what my own arc is going to be, and to be truthful, what my own career was shaping up to be. At the time, I had just got into hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
but I had one foot in, one foot out. And at the time, she was also in hospitality, but she also had one foot into fashion. So it was a very interesting mix of both of us trying to figure out our own development and our own journeys. And we never really had that conversation of like how they align with each other, or do they not align with each other, which is totally fine as well.
Can you describe some of the high points, right? Because there had to be some fun, right? You love this person. So,
Mhm.
what were the benefits, in your opinion, of getting married early?
Uh, Shared experiences, traveling together, uh, lots of tenderness, lots of emotional connection. Some of the things that were fleeting and I was missing in earlier experiences in life. To have somebody that I truly, genuinely had a very naked connection with, like I can truly say that I felt like, wow, I'm really, really connected to this woman.
So, what were the challenges? And with that, when did you, or what was there a defining moment where you said, you know what, this is probably not going to work out?
To be honest, when we both started to step outside of the relationship,
Mm.
when we both started to give up when it came to the relationship, I think that was the main challenge that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Mhm. So, why do you think that happened, and when did that happen? Because you said, you were fond of each other, you traveled with each other. So, did you all stop communicating? What happened that brought on the breakdown in the relationship for the both of you to start stepping out?
I think you hit the point. It was the communication. Uh, I'll readily admit, I'm not the best communicator, especially when I'm emotional about something and I'm hurt about something. I have a tendency to shut down and to assume the worst and fall into old bad habits. And I think that was the case back then, where it was like fall into these old habits, and as opposed to just saying, "Hey, I'm hurt about this," or "I'm unsure of this," and I'm actually unsure of how you feel about me, because I may not necessarily measure up to the image I may have perceived, or the image that I had created for you. Uh, how do you feel about it now? And can we move on from that, or uh, can we grow from that? It's a very naked way, and a very uh, uncomfortable way to be. And again, when you're still unsure of yourself, you're still unsure of your own uh, life, career, just everything. It's hard to kind of tackle that with a relationship, with a partner.
So, I'm assuming she didn't come to you either and express her frustrations in the relationship, and you all
No,
just
no, no.
decided to step out. Is that your experience?
Yeah, yeah.
So, at some point, clearly, you both decided that divorce was part of your journey. So, how did that come about?
Mhm.
Because typically women file more often than men. So, was that your decision? Was that her decision? And how did you all start that process?
I think it was amicable. I think we both realized that it wasn't it wasn't a fit. And to put it in urban terminology, uh, and we talked about it, and we said, all right, we'll try to give it another try, but that didn't work again. And we just said, let's just call it quits. And the legal aspect did drag on for a period of time, for some reasons that I don't want to mention in this podcast. But mm-hmm. It took us about almost 3 years to kind of complete that process.
Mm-hmm. But
by the way, thank you for creating this safe space.
No problem.
This is, for me to speak about my own personal journey is something that it's hard for me, but I definitely feel like it's therapeutic, and I appreciate you for just being beautiful and allowing me to share my story.
Oh, I love it, and I especially love to hear from men, because men do struggle sometimes mm-hmm. in sharing with us. But you would be surprised mm-hmm. at how many men like to hear the stories and they resonate with what you're saying. So I really appreciate you speaking your truth and sharing your story. It is very informative. So I appreciate you as well. I know
we do have feelings.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that is a misconception, that men don't, mm-hmm. that women need to be supported and surrounded. But to your point, men do as well. So that's why we like to hear from you all. Mm-hmm. And I know you said the legal process took 3 years, but it seems like the two of you were able to remain on good terms. Why do you think that is?
Mm-hmm. I mean, at our core, I think we were both good people. We definitely had disagreements. We definitely had disagreements on life and how we thought we should live our lives. But I think at our core, fundamentally, we were good people. And I think, at least from my perspective, I was able to still be friends with a person that generally was my best friend at the time. Mm-hmm. So, mm-hmm. and maybe selfishly, I didn't want to lose that friendship.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very mature for both of you, because as a divorce attorney, you can probably imagine the fights that I see, the disrespect that I see. So much respect to the both of you for being mature about at least maintaining some form of a relationship. So what advice?
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. We definitely had some nasty moments.
Right.
But yeah, I think through it all, we were able to remain cool and cordial and even spend some time afterwards together.
And I think
that's friends.
I think that's the key. You were able to come back together and say, hey, whatever you all decided your relationship would be was more important than what you went through. And I think that's important, especially for mm-hmm. couples that have children. So what advice would you give to others that are in a similar situation, especially men, that the relationship may not work out, but what advice would you have about navigating the end?
I would think, or I would say, come from a place of love. I would say, first and foremost, step away from the situation. I think when you're caught up in the mix, you're emotional, and a man emotional can be a little addictive. We can be dicks. So kind of step out away from the situation. Take some time to yourself to kind of like calm yourself, calm your emotions, and just really look at it from a place of love. And just say, you know what, this didn't work out, but this person is still cool. If you have kids together, obviously you want to make sure your kids are well taken care of, but also understanding like, hey, I still want this person that I really did love and care for to be fine afterwards. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I can give biggest advice that I could give to anybody that's going through that process.
How do you encourage someone to get there, right? Because sometimes people are so emotional, so hurt, so upset that I don't think they can see that far. So, what were kind of some of the first
Mm-hmm.
steps you took to say, we're not in a good place right now? We may have had an argument. We may be in this 3-year legal journey, but what did
Mm-hmm.
you do to bring yourself out of that?
Wow. What did I do? I spent a lot of time praying, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you. I spent a lot of time consoling with friends. I didn't go to therapy, which I think would have been very, very helpful at the time. Uh, but I spent a lot of time just digesting digesting the situation, looking at it and figuring out what I could have done differently. Uh, and when I got into my next relationship, I took some of those things that I learned about myself and tried to implement it in my next situation.
And how did that go for you?
Oh, it was fantastic for the time that it was.
Mm-hmm.
My next relationship was on and off for 10 years, 5 years concurrent, but it was a really, really, really healthy, loving relationship. And I'm also really great friends with her to, today as well. So
I love that you can be friends with your exes. That is that is something to
not
be.
every ex, not every ex. Trust me, there's some exes that there's some exes that can't stand inside of me. So
Mm.
I don't want to play like I'm a saint because there's some exes that are like stay over there. So
Can you tell us how the experience of being married impacted your dating life today, if it has impacted your dating life today?
I don't really think it's really impacted my dating life.
Mhm.
To some women, they'll ask me that question and they'll be like their eyes might raise if I say I've been married,
Mhm.
but I think it's less of a deterrent because I don't have kids,
Mhm.
at least from my perspective. When I do mention that I am still friends with my ex and my other exes, uh, for some it's like no, like like if we get serious, you can't be friends. Uh, and for the longest I couldn't understand that until one of my exes actually was like, you know what, if I end up getting married to my guy, you can't come to the wedding. And then I was
Mhm.
just like, what are you talking about? But
Mhm.
uh, um, I did understand, like, okay, it can be encroaching on somebody's territory, and you want to give them that respect and the space to kind of figure out their new situation. So I totally got that.
That's a good point. So how do you now that you know that, how do you establish a boundary with any of your exes that you're close to while you're navigating a new relationship?
Well, they never really meet the current relationship, so I think that's uh, I think it's very helpful that if we do talk about exes that are best friends, that it's very surface level, and it's not like, hey, I talk to this person every day, and nor do I talk to that person every day.
Mhm.
I think my time should be focused on my relationship.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to talk to somebody every day, that person needs to be the person that I'm in a relationship with. Uh, and and there's nothing wrong with catching up with your exes that are your best friends,
Mhm.
but not reserving every day for them.
Mhm.
Does that make
That
sense?
makes perfect sense. So, now that you have went through this experience, how would you face marriage different now? Would you go to premarital counseling? Would you ask all those important questions? How would that be different for you now?
Mm-hmm. It would be 100% different. Like I would definitely advocate for couples therapy. I would definitely get our friends and our family included in the process, have more outings, the cookouts, double dating, just seeing that we're really, really aligned. Like, are you religious? You know, is like financially, are we aligned? Right?
Mhm.
Like, if I'm making 150,000 and you're making 50,000, how does that align with each other? Right? How are our spending habits? Uh, if your lifestyle exceeds my lifestyle, like how does that work? All these things that I think that would make for a more balanced and pragmatic uh, relationship,
That's awesome.
which I think sometimes can be a little, which would be, I think younger self would say, man, that's not love, uh,
Mm.
because I think you lose some of the romanticism when it comes to that. Uh, and I think older one would be like, but this is more long lasting. This is more like you'll be together for a longer period of time because you've established these benchmarks that will lead for a more lasting and potentially fulfilling relationship. So I think trying to have that balance of the two.
I agree with you. I think that's extremely important. And on this show, we talk a lot about premarital planning, if it's a prenup or otherwise. Even now, even older couples don't spend enough time talking about all the things that you have mentioned. And to your point, it does make for a better relationship, better communication, open communication, because you see where the holes are or where you're strong or where you may need a little work. So I think the more you talk, the better. Some people don't like to prenup, but I think that's another good way to kind of outline where everyone is to start having the hard conversations. With that said, I want you to speak specifically to men because a lot of men are in the shadows, but they like to hear from other men. So, what would you say specifically to men about navigating the end of a relationship and the hope for the future?
I would say always be cool. Always be cool because to be honest with you, you never know. Like truthfully, you never ever know. Uh, as I could say, I'm probably the king of the the what you call it when you spin the block. Uh, I would say always be cool
Mm,
because you really never know. Because sometimes at that point, the timing may not be right, right? For various different reasons, the timing may not be right. But if you're cool, there might be an opportunity later on down the road.
mm.
But if you're a dick and if you're selfish and if you're just not a good person, I think that ruins and closes the door for any opportunity that might present itself in the future.
What does marriage mean to you now compared to when you were younger?
I think marriage now is more about true partnership.
Mm,
I think marriage it's about blending ideologies, your values, families, your goals, also with romanticism, with love. I think it's more of a mature way of looking at life. And like I run a lot, right?
mhm,
So I did a marathon last year, and I see the parallels of pardon me of running and racing in life. It's not
mm.
necessarily about being quick and being fast, which I think young Yoke was about being the rabbit. It's more about the journey. It's more about the entirety of the race, the entirety of the run, the peaks and valleys of the run, and understanding that you're just going for it no matter what. And I believe marriage should mirror that you will go through your valleys. You will also go through your peaks, like they say, for better and for worse. But being consistent with what you do would carry you a long, long way. So I think marriage now for me would be all of that.
That sounds wonderful. It sounds like you're ready to be married again. Do you have that pressure to remarry, or do you want to get married again?
I now feel that pressure. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. No, I will say that I'm looking for partnership. I'm looking for somebody that I can spend the rest of my life with and grow with, like truly a partner in crime.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I'm taking applications.
Amen to that. Maybe someone will see you here
Amen.
and send you a few. So,
God is good.
Speaking to the men again, someone that is 39 and newly single in a big city like New York or Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give that person coming out of a relationship, navigating being single again, and potentially looking for a partner?
I think partnership is good. I think, especially in our culture, we don't embrace partnership enough. And when you look at other cultures, they're really into partnership. They are into partnership at a younger age because they really see the value in that. I think for us and men generally, we do everything as individuals. And I think once you understand that you can accomplish so much more as with a partner, you'll be a little bit more focused and intentional when it comes to dating. You'll literally say, all right, am I going to date the stripper? And there's nothing wrong with dating strippers. Or am I going to date the professional who may not be as thrilling, but has some real strong core values that align with me? So I would say look to that and look for partnership, because that would really, really help you come up in life. So, hey, can I ask you some questions?
Sure. Go for it.
Married? Divorced?
I am single, never married. I have a 10-year-old son.
Single. Okay. How do you navigate when it comes to dating, especially as a single parent? Do you date with intention? Do you look for something that's a little bit more steady and consistent, or do you look for something that's a little bit more thrilling?
To your point, I am on the market for partnership, and now I also have a 10-year-old that's watching everything that I do. So it's really important to date with intention. It's really important to date someone that I wouldn't mind being around my child. My producer, Crystal, will tell you it is very challenging to kind of navigate everything that I do, manage his schedule, and then try to date. So it becomes another job, if you may, to be intentional about getting out there and trying to attract a great partner for myself and now for my son.
And do you feel like something I've noticed that the older we get, we become a little bit more complacent, and we we don't actually invest enough time in that aspect of our life in terms of dating and in terms of seeking a partnership. Do you feel like that you align with that, or do you feel like you're still out there on the hunt?
I think I'm in the middle. I think you're right, right? Because I have so many other things that make my life fulfilling that it becomes part of, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But I think, to your point, as we get older, if we really want partnership, we do need to make it a priority. And thank you for the reminder. I think I need to do a better job of that.
No worries. No worries. Well, thank you for showing me and telling me about your truth. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
And again, for creating such a safe space, because this is very therapeutic for me. And again, it's scary because talking about my emotions and my past and some of my past failures can be very scary.
And we really appreciate you. Thank you. So I want to thank you, Yoki, so much for telling your story, telling us about the experience of getting married young, being friends with your ex after a divorce, especially when you're young. I think that is something to be very, very proud of. I love your positive outlook on relationships and wanting to have a partner. A lot of people do not want to get married after they divorce. At least that's what they tell me. So I commend you for that. And I really, really pray that that happens for you. And I have to say, this is the first time a guest has put me in a hot seat. So thank you for reminding me that I might have some things to do in my personal life. So thank you for tuning in to this very, very interesting episode of Legally Uncensored. I'm your host, Demetria Graves, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Yoki Brown. His journey of marrying young, navigating divorce, and finding clarity on love and relationships later in life offers valuable insight into the complexities of modern relationships. From his unique perspective of maintaining a friendship with his ex while dating in a city such as New York, Yoki's story reminds us that love evolves, and so do we. As we continue to explore the many stages of relationships this season, we hope you walk away feeling empowered, informed, and ready to embrace your own journey, no matter where it leads. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it with others, subscribe, and tell me about it. And most importantly, leave us a review. Until next time, remember that relationships, like life, are all about learning, growing, and moving forward with strength and resilience. Stay tuned for more uncensored conversations, and don't forget to follow us on all socials, where we have videos, information, and more at legallyuncensoredpodcast.com.